The European Central Bank, ECB, has been on a tightening cycle since July 2022, when it raised its main refinancing rate from -0.5% to 0%. Since then, it has hiked rates 6 more times, reaching 1.5% in March 2023. The ECB's motivation for raising rates is to curb the soaring inflation in the Eurozone, which hit 8.5% in February 2023, the highest level since 1992. The ECB's inflation target is below but close to 2%, so the current situation is far from ideal. The main drivers of inflation in the Eurozone are the rising energy and food prices, which are partly due to supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic and Brexit. The ECB believes that these factors are transitory and that inflation will eventually fall back to its target. However, some economists and market participants are skeptical about this view and fear that inflation could become entrenched and erode the purchasing power of consumers and businesses. The ECB's rate hikes have also been criticized by some politicians and analysts, who argue that they are premature and could jeopardize the fragile economic recovery in the Eurozone. The banking crisis that erupted in late 2022 has added more pressure on the ECB to rethink its monetary policy stance. Several banks in Italy, Spain and France have faced liquidity problems and solvency risks due to their exposure to bad loans and non-performing assets. The ECB has been providing emergency funding and regulatory relief to these banks, but some observers warn that this is not enough and that a more comprehensive solution is needed. The ECB faces a difficult dilemma: should it continue to raise rates to fight inflation, or should it pause or reverse its tightening cycle to support the banking sector and the economy? The answer is not clear-cut and depends on how the inflation dynamics and the banking situation evolve in the coming months. The ECB has signaled that it will monitor the data closely and act accordingly, but it also stressed that it will not tolerate a prolonged deviation of inflation from its target. The ECB's next policy meeting is scheduled for June 8, 2023, and it will be closely watched by investors and analysts for any clues about its future moves. The banking crisis in March 2023, triggered by the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse, caused market turmoil and uncertainty, and led some ECB policymakers to reconsider the pace and size of future rate hikes. Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, was a major lender to startups and venture capitalists in the US, with more than $100 billion in assets. It collapsed on March 10 after a series of scandals and losses, including a $10 billion fraud by one of its clients, Theranos. The failure of SVB sparked a panic among investors and creditors, who feared that other banks with exposure to SVB or similar risky loans would also face insolvency. One of those banks was Credit Suisse, a global investment bank based in Switzerland. Credit Suisse had been struggling for years with low profitability, high costs, legal troubles and regulatory scrutiny.